Hello folks, Greg Delmage here, dishing up a little news, then we're going to dish up a little podcast, so let's get right into it with the reviews department. That hard-working Audra Bowling brings us our first review. I'm going to tell you folks about Greedfall, a nice, complex, morally challenging, narrative-driven RPG, kind of in the vein of the old Bethesda, Black Isle, all that sort of stuff used to be at. It was reviewed by Audra for us, and overall, it's looking like a pretty solid game. If you kind of like that harkening back with a new spin on it, check out the review and see what she had to say. Next up is yet another niche review from Neil Chandran of a visual novel from True Pixel, A Cache Path of the Five, which, again, it looks beautiful for the production value of this visual novel is stunning, so go check out his review. And if you're into visual novels, this might be the one for you. Do you know Link's Awakening came out again? It did, and it got editor's choice from Jonathan Logan for us. Overall, he seems super pleased by it. Mark talks about it on this episode. He seems super pleased by it. I want to get it, but I have too much to play. But I'll get back to it. Go read Jonathan Logan's review, see why he liked it so darn much. Then I'll just tell you how hardworking Audra is. She also reviewed Neocab for us, a swell graphic adventure developed by Chance Agency. And this thing is brimming with style as well. Overall, seems like a really great game that has a lot of replayability for a visual novel, so a lot of kind of different turns you can take. It's a cab game. Get it? Turns? Next review. Code Vein also dropped. As far as I understand, it's kind of like a anime sort of Souls game. Either way, this is Kyle's first review for RPG Fan. Kyle, who you know and love on our Twitch channel, decided to come in and review something, and he was super happy to get his words out in print. Kyle, good job. Thanks for the great review. Go read it yourselves, folks, and see what Kyle had to say about Code Vein. Bob Richardson had a little bit of startup difficulties with Borderlands 3. It's a great game by and large, but the technical issues while he was playing was a fun saga to follow in our Slack account. Thankfully, Bob was able to get his way through it, and overall, despite the technical issues, still found some good stuff in the game. It just might be a bit lacking. Go see how he mitigated his problems, see what Gearbox's latest entry in their franchise has to offer, and we'll go on with a really swell review that I've been anticipating for a while. This one comes from Alana Heggs, who was lucky enough to get her hands on Indivisible. This game looks so lovely, and apparently is holding up brilliantly. Lab Zero Games has brought us this wonderful side-scrolling traditional RPG, and yeah, check out the review, check out this game. It's looking awesome, and I can't wait to get my hands on it as well, because Alana's review has got me stoked on it. More obscure things. Neil Chandran expressed how excited he was to get into Yuno, a girl who chants love at the bound of this world. I know nothing about Yuno, but as far as I know, I think he's played them in the past or something. Either way, he was very excited to dive into another entry in the series, and yeah, again, if you're into visual novels, so was Neil, and you can go check out why he likes them so much. Keep him busy with more graphic adventures. Jonathan Logan was into Whispers of a Machine, and overall seems to really enjoy this well-told story that, again, is visually stunning. I love how much like the graphic adventures and visual novels are really stepping up their games to be so engaging visually, because obviously that's, it's in the title, it's what they got going for them, but it's just incredible how much the margins they're pushing, considering how, I guess, simple the gameplay is. I mean, it's all based around the narrative and that complexity and other mechanics. Anyways, it's very cool. Whispers of the Machine looks really neat. Go check out Jonathan's words on the subject. Tris Mendoza, who I don't think we've heard from for a while, but I can think of, was reviewing Spirit Hunter NG for us, and seems quite overwhelmingly positive about it, and how superb the story is, and how great everything kind of comes together in this wonderful review of the game from Ghostlight Limited and Experience Inc. And that is our plethora of reviews. There has been a lot going on in the department, a lot of great reviews coming out, a lot of great games coming out, as we have been complaining about on the podcast for ages. This is a good problem to have. But over to the music department, Saga The Stage, The Seven Warriors Return original soundtrack was dropped on CD. This 21-track CD was reviewed by, you guessed it, Patrick Gann, and it sounds lovely. So enjoy listening to those tunes that are in the background, because as you may have noticed, usually I throw the music in the background of the soundtrack reviews I talk about. Look at that. And if there are none, it's probably music from something we talked about. Anyways, I'll stop talking so you can hear more talking about things on the podcast episode. Thanks for listening to the news. On to episode 172. Hello folks, we're back with some more Random Encounter. We are episode 172, is that right? Yes, I think it's 172. And I'm Greg Delmage, your host for this week. I am joined by a lovely couple of folks returning to the podcast. Joe Padilla, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Not a worries. Joe, where can people find you on the interwebs, aside from the RPG fan social media, or is that the best place?
That's probably the best place, but you can also find me on Twitter, the Discord, and Instagram as @QueersForFears.
I enjoy it. And we have, I think, Mark, this is your first time on podcast, or have you been on before? I can't remember. Mark Tjan, everybody. Mark?
Hi there. No, I have not been on the podcast before, so...
Really?
Here.
Lovely. Mark, what do you do for RPG fans? I feel like we're getting a lot of, not quote-unquote randoms, so to speak, but just people who aren't usually the face of RPG fan, which has been really nice. It's been nice getting some new voices and not the usuals like it used to happen on the podcast. But yeah, what do you do for RPG fan, Mark?
That's a big question. Many things, but the primary thing that people will eventually see the fruits of is I am the back-end editor, so I do the web development.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah, so I do the web development and help out with the design and things like that. I've also contributed to like soundtracks and regular reviews, but mostly I just do. I'm the code monkey.
Well, thanks for coding it up for us, because we got a lovely site between yourself and I'm assuming Mike.
Yeah.
Salvato does a bunch of that stuff as well. Thank you both for your hard work, because it looks great, and keeping it running is probably not an easy job.
No problem.
But, so we have two Canadians, and this guy Joe, or this person Joe over here, who's from the Chicago? I can't remember.
Yep, from the Chicago area. Never lived anywhere else, but yep.
You've never gotten out of that area?
No, I've only lived in and around Chicago all my life. So I'm going to have to, what is it that my government would expect? Like defends American values or something like that on this podcast, or?
No, probably not. I mean, you can if you want to, but I think we're okay.
I'm a Puerto Rican American, so I'm not going to do that
RPG
at all.
Fan values.
I can defend the values of RPGs. I can't defend anything about the countries which I exist. Anyway.
Listen, you people think that poutine can be made with shredded cheese, and you're wrong.
Well, you know what? I've never even had poutine, so...
Well, we need to get you up here and educate you, apparently, because that would be in your best interest to enjoy proper poutine.
I have heard that many times.
I mean, I, for one, cannot enjoy proper poutine without it killing my stomach, so thanks, lactose intolerance. But, I can enjoy some vegan poutine. I know it's not quite the same, but it's still very tasty, so fries, gravy, cheese, it's what's not to like.
Cheese with a Z.
Cheese. Oh, gosh. Anyways, we're here to talk about RPGs. We're not going to get so far off track like we did last episode, but I thank you folks for coming along with us. It was a lot of fun talking mechs and such. We have since caught up a bit on mechs with Mark here, who's also an aficionado of the mecha genre, especially Gundam. You are far more deeply involved in the Gundam oeuvre than I have ever been.
Yeah, Gundam's one of those things that I can't even call myself like a very good fan, because I can't do things like identify specific mobile suits by their numbers. You know, I
Ditto.
haven't memorized every pilot. I hate Gundam Seed, so I'm just a pariah from like one half of the fandom. But I love my big space robot boys and all that they do in service to whatever fictional cause they've been employed in.
I don't know. The latest one I just watched was the unicorn one, and that kind of throws back to like Londo Bell and all that stuff. And all I can think of is just like takeout tacos whenever they talk about Londo Bell. And I just want someone to make that T-shirt or something.
Yeah, I love that Unicorn is continuing the Universal Century plot line. It's doing okay. Like, it did okay. It wasn't the best thing on the planet, but I also think it was fine. I think it was fine. And I'm glad that we have an origin now, because that's telling Char's background.
Char, who is that eternal hero that everyone in Gundam absolutely loves, and like Sex Marquise kind of tried to be, but not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in Unicorn, Full Frontal was the Char.
Yeah, exactly. Even with, like, as soon as you see someone with a mask, you're like, cool, you're the Char.
Yeah. Trope namer, named after a famous French singer, Charles Aznavour. I can't pronounce his last name.
Aznavour?
Yeah, well, it wasn't Aznavour, but it's...
Oh, the one that he was named after, gotcha.
It's like Azdanvor or something. I'd have to look it up.
I really pray that one of our listeners out there is just that niche, like, French music fandom person that's just like, it's this!
Yeah,
just so mad at us
leave it
right
in
now.
the comments.
That's sometimes me, but not this time.
This isn't your specific niche.
No, I can talk a little Sergei Gainsbourg or something, but this is something beyond my this intersection of French music and Gundam is a bit beyond me, because I've only seen 2 Gundam series. So
I think being in Canada gives us a little more access to the French music side of this odd intersection.
And even then, this is all news to me that there was this intersection in the first place. So, but it goes to show.
You're not from an important part of Canada, Greg.
I just make, I'm in part of the place that makes more than half of our films for the States.
I guess.
I know, it's not Toronto. The universe doesn't revolve around us like it does you. But here we are. At any rate, RPGs, that's what we talk about in Random Encounter, right?
Role-playing game fan, not giant robot fan.
Right? Speaking of which, didn't you want, I guess Kamen Rider isn't giant robots.
No, it is small, armored people.
What is a Kamen and how does one ride it? Mike Sollosi is so mad at me right now.
So somewhere Solosi's ears just perked up, like, I know somebody is committing blasphemy. All right, so RPGs.
Yeah, you. I guess the most latest and greatest release is Link's Awakening, which came out. When was that? It's like a week ago now.
Like 2 weeks, yeah, something like that. I just finished it up. My wife is still playing through it. It was her birthday present, actually. I've only gotten through it faster by virtue of having played it as a child on the Game Boy and loving every god-danged moment of it.
It looks charming as heck, and I can't wait to dive into it. I'm going to hold off on it for myself. Yeah, it looks so good, and I've only played a bit of the first one. Is it pretty, like, true one-to-one?
Yeah, I would say it's not one-to-one exactly, because they had to do a lot with it. How shall I put it? It's an excellent upgrade. It's taking everything that the original had and dialing it up, to 11 essentially, making all the quality of life improvements, with a couple of exceptions here and there. And generally, like, the actual quest progress is more or less one-to-one what the original game was, but there's a few extra things. They've put in a couple of extra little dungeons to help you out. They've added what I think is a little more in the way of, like, heart replenishment and things like that. You have fairies in bottles now, so you have an extra chance against the boss. Of course, Crazy Tracy's still in the game, and her in both the original and in this one, Crazy Tracy is my favorite kind of forgotten Nintendo character, because She is the person who gives you like the medicine, her special medicine, that if you get killed, essentially functions like a fairy in any other game and revives you with full hearts. But it's very clear, especially now, with the way that they've designed her room to have like all these heart motifs and all this kind of very sensual interior design going on. Crazy Tracy is a sex worker. There's no two ways about this. She's a sex worker.
It kind of falls back to Adventure of Link.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like she is the woman in the red dress who leads you inside and replenishes your health, and it's just like, yeah, all right, I can get behind that. I mean, this is Nintendo, so the sex worker just smiles at you and blows you a kiss, sort of stuff. But we all know what they're implying.
It's so saucy, and just how much of that gets lost in the translation when it gets localized or not. Because I know we are notoriously safer in North America once the localization goes through.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's been a lot of like quality of life stuff. What was the stuff that you said was kind of missing from the quality of life improvements?
Okay, so the actual quality of life improvements are things like we have more buttons now, therefore like run is attached to a specific shoulder button.
Thank goodness.
So is holding up your shield. You know, you don't have to have those things equipped.
Oh gosh, that was a dream, because that was the biggest thing that plagued all three of those Game Boy ones. And I get it, they did what they could, but it was so tedious going in and out of menus. Oh my gosh.
Oh, absolutely. Things I think that they should have done that they didn't. They should have mapped Rock's Feather, the jump, to a specific button rather than having to make you equip it, because you use it almost everywhere once you get it. And it's not like, you know, like somebody I remember on Twitter made the argument, well, it's an item, therefore, you know, they couldn't map it to a button. But that's simply not true. The Pegasus boots are an item in this. You know, your ability to run, you get it at a certain point, and that's mapped to a button by default. So is the shield. So they could have just mapped it to like one of the trigger buttons. I think would have done fine.
Yeah. It could have been just like a Link to the Past or a Link Between Worlds. Once you get certain items are usable items and certain items are just passive and just happen once you have them. They're like upgrades, like in Metroid and such.
Yeah, I think that's the big one. Is just I was always having to keep Rock's Feather on all the time anyway. So why not just make it a button? And I guess the other thing was, and I guess this is where Tracy's medicine comes in versus fairies, is that you have to take fairies out of the bottle to use them. They don't just auto-activate when you die. Yeah, I learned kind of the hard way.
Like you have to like have them just like hang out around you? How does that work?
So basically it's when you're getting low on health, pop the bottle, press X or Y, whichever you mapped it to, and then the fairy will auto refill you. But you have to trigger it. You can't just fall down and the fairy comes out of the bottle, like in Link to the Past.
Yeah, that's contrary to what we are used to. Unfortunate.
Yeah, and yeah, it's it's against expected behavior, I suppose. So I died the first time, going, wait, I had a fairy. What the hell?
So it's not an auto revive. They're just again just the most powerful like healing potion thing you can get.
Well, besides Crazy Tracy's medicine, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess in Crazy Tracy's medicine, it does revive you if you die?
Yeah, it's the auto revive. So
I guess that's why they just wanted to keep it relevant.
Yeah, it fulfills that, which is cool. It's just, why did you also give us bottle fairies then, and not tell us you have to release them?
Yeah, that subverts expectation, as you said. I'm very excited to get into it with... I don't think I'm going to explore it much, the whole aspect of collecting all the different puzzle parts and stuff for the puzzle dungeons, because I just don't have people around me with that many Switches, which is the whole point. Like I think it's amiibo trading them and stuff like that, but it might be something fun for Gwen to kind of build and throw at me and such. Did you get much use out of that functionality? So
I played around with it a bunch. It's fun. It's definitely something I think if you're younger, you'll definitely enjoy it a lot more than an older person will. For me, it was just sort of, it's a nice addition, I suppose. I didn't really care to do it very much. I think even, younger audiences will get a little bored with it. But if you do have a lot of friends who, have the game and you want to trade amiibos, I think that's definitely a way that will actually serve that function. But as a standalone thing, it's just okay. I found it mostly just, ultimately you could just pass it up.
So it doesn't have any like necessary stuff for gameplay, like, because I know you get some bonus hearts and stuff through it, but you can kind of live without it if you had to.
Yeah, pretty much. Unless you're invested in like getting 100%, basically don't need to do it at all. I think you just need to talk to Dampe once to like open it up. I'm not even sure you need to talk to him. I know he hangs out like wherever you are until you talk to him. So I mean, if you just want Dampe to stop creeping you, then talk to him. It's not really entitled.
I mean, I don't know. I don't mind having Dampe around. Well, that's great though, and the story and everything else remains pretty much untouched from the original. Did they keep more or less the original localization, or did they have to adapt that a bit too?
I think the localization text has been updated a little bit. It's a little more verbose here and there, as far as I can tell. It's been a while since I played the Game Boy original, so I don't actually know how much it's been improved. But by and large, it's the same text, it's the same script, it's the same progression. I think there's only been like a few cleanups here and there, and some additions for things like the color dungeon and things like that, where in the color dungeon you can change your vest to green, or from green to blue or red, and that gives you more attack power, more defense power, and that's sort of a new thing. Yeah, outside of that, I think it's pretty much all the same.
That's pretty cool.
The soundtrack has kind of been played around with, in some cases remastered, in some cases like remixed and given different stylings, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge departure from the original, because obviously we can't just have Game Boy chiptune on there anymore. It would sound very strange. So they arranged it quite a bit. I think all of the new music is excellent. Though I would say that in one case with Tall Tall Heights, which used to be my favorite song, it's still good, but I think that the chiptune version of Tall Tall Heights is better. If only because like the highs are higher, and it really in the new one takes on a Gerudo Valley sort of sound. Like a little bit of like the same progression. Throwing some Spanish guitar and castanets and things like that. And that's not a bad thing. It's just not the same song.
Gotcha. It's too much almost.
It's just, it's very different. It's not, it doesn't fulfill the same thing for me. It's not as memorable, in my opinion.
Interesting. Could be a controversial thought. Who knows? But Tata Heights is like legit an amazing song. I haven't listened to any of the soundtrack, and from what I heard from at least the like preview stuff and everything, it was sounding a lot like the music from Nintendo Land. I've always kind of put these two together with like how they've kind of toyified the entire stylization of the game, and right down to the music as well. It kind of seems very like toy boxy and very much in that vein. So yeah, I'm assuming some tracks will possibly lose some of their nostalgic touch and love, but ultimately it's likely coming out better in the end anyway, and for the most part. So good to see it, or I guess good to hear that it's holding up.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that was said in John's, I think it was John who did our review for us, he was saying that it doesn't have a lot of replay value.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, there's a cleared file function now where you can go and do your 100%ing. I would definitely say there's not a lot to come back to unless you're invested in the Dampe thing. It's a short game. It's 8 to 12 hours at most. So like half the time you spend with Link's Awakening, let's say. But I would say that's even if you kind of rate games by their time versus money spent. I think it's money well spent, time well spent, because it's a very solid 10 hours. It's a very coherent and well developed and just joyful 10 hours. There's nothing in the game that ever made me feel, oh god, this is boring, or oh god, this is dragging. And I think its willingness to like not essentially not pad things out is key to that.
Which I find most of the games, I mean, the Game Boy ones especially aren't guilty of that. Like, they're all pretty straight and direct. I didn't really feel with either Oracle game either that that it really dragged on.
Yeah.
And Link's Awakening, I'm glad, kind of set that pace to just kind of go through and make it a small, quick, digestible little experience that you can take on the go. And I'm glad they didn't really mess with that by feeling they had to make it bigger or more than it was. Like, I guess Dompe does that a bit, but again, like you said, it's not essential, so you can take it or leave it, which is great.
Yeah, and I think that definitely, like, because the Switch is seen at least partially as a handheld, and especially with the Switch Lite, it's such an accessible little pick up and play and put down when you want to game. You're not fretting over like getting to the next save point or anything like that, because it's just not built that way. And you don't feel like you have to invest any more time than is absolutely necessary with this. And I think that's a really big bonus. So, I mean, it retains that Game Boy playability to everything. And I know some people were complaining about, oh, is it worth full price? And it's like, absolutely. It's absolutely worth full price. It was worth full price back when it was released on Game Boy. It's certainly worth full price now. There's been immense love and care put into remaking this.
And that's the thing that I think shows the most from any of the trailers and such that I've seen so far. Do you think this game will have much of an impact in the speedrunning community at all?
That one is hard to say. I don't think it's long enough, per se, for speedrunners in the action RPG genre, or the RPG genre straight up, to probably want to, trick through it very much. But who knows? I mean, there's all sorts of little things I'm sure that the speedrunners are hell-bent on getting around. Like, early on, when you're trying to get to the second dungeon in Bottle Grotto, you usually have to pick up Bow Wow to, like, chomp away at the flowers to enter the dungeon. I'm sure there's a way around that. I'm sure that speedrunners have industriously found it, and I look forward to seeing the YouTube recordings of their efforts.
Well, that's excellent. And Joe, I think last time you were on, we were talking about your exposure to Legend of Zelda, which is not much. Or was that?
Yeah, so I've played quite a few Zelda games. So I've finished Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword. So most of my experience is with the 3D ones, though I have played Minish Cap and a little bit of Link to the Past, but didn't finish those. So, but I'm interested in Link's Awakening. I love the way it looks. I love what I've heard of the soundtrack, and it just seems to be full of little bespoke oddities that I really love seeing in Nintendo games of its ilk. So I'll probably pick it up at some point, but I tend to be very kind of regimented in a way with games where I'm like, okay, this is going to be what I play for the next 3 months, and there isn't a whole lot of deviation from that.
And that's totally fair. It's time and money investment.
Yeah, unless there's like a really good sale or something like that, or if there's a podcast episode coming up, something like that. So, but I'm definitely keen to play it at some point.
Well, and it looks like one that's going to be unavoidable for anybody who enjoys the Nintendo, anything in their franchise. Like, it's a great looking game that's going to be super fun to play. And if I wasn't for my own backlog, I'd already have it as well, but I need to focus on getting through things like the next game I wanted to talk about, which is Monster Hunter World Iceborne.
Goodbye to your life.
More or less, yeah. So that came out on September 6th, and we've got it for review. I've just been backlogged because my wedding happened like just before that. I was trying to plow through Moonlighter, and I also wasn't at a place where I could dive into the content yet, because you had to be a certain hunter rank from the first game to unlock the content for this one. So I had to plow through to get to the end of the content that I thought I was at, but there was more end game stuff that I had to do to get myself caught up to a place where I could dive into Iceborne. But having gotten into it and re-experiencing the game, it's made me fall in love with Monster Hunter World again. I've never been a big Monster Hunter player. Back when World dropped, though, it looked, from what everyone was saying, to be the most inclusive Monster Hunter experience that has kind of been made. I've tried some demos for some in the past on the 3DS and such, and it just didn't seem intuitive to me, and I bounced off it, and it wasn't for me. But this one really is very exciting. Each of the maps are like a wonder to explore. The monsters are really neat, watching them just kind of endemically live in the environments and how they interact with each other, how they interact with the environments. It's very cool to unlock little secrets as you go and explore things throughout the missions and just from your own explorations. And that's what's cool too, is you can do like the actual focused quests. So you can just play it as like a grindy quest RPG, but they also have expeditions where if you just want to go wander around in the maps and explore and get into whatever you want to get into, I thought that was a very neat thing to bring to this kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
Have either of you?
Yeah, I've played a bit of Monster Hunter World. I haven't played Iceborne yet, but it's definitely the most accessible. Having tried to play the Wii version and one on the DS, 3DS rather, definitely the simplified menus help. It's not such a deep dive into every little piece of minutia. It's a lot more like a big buck trophy hunting, but for Lord of the Rings fans.
That's a really great way to put it. And even then, there's still so much minutia with like each different piece of equipment having different benefits it gives you, not just in its stat bonuses, but the skills and such like that, and trying to balance those out to get the most that you want to go into a specific thing, and hunting specific monsters, tracking them down and learning about them. So when you first encounter them, it's kind of a trial and error and hope for the best, but as you start picking up like their traces from their tracks and their slobber and feathers and whatever else they've dropped, you learn things about them, so then you can unlock like, oh, this one's weak to lightning, so I should equip a weapon that has lightning, and it also has a chance that it can put me to sleep, so I'll put on a charm that prevents me from falling asleep. And then it just makes it that much more an easier hunt for you. By no means challenging, because there's still big damage sponges, and there's still the oddball thing that can be thrown at you, and other monsters sometimes get in the mix, and you didn't necessarily prepare for that. And that's what's really neat. It kind of keeps you on your toes, as frustrating as it can be sometimes.
But don't you want to ride on top of the T-Rex?
Yes. Jumping on top of Anjanath and riding them around is super neat, because you're just so annoying. Like, you feel like such a nuisance, because you're just like stabbing them with your little knife for like 1 damage, and it seems to aggravate them so much, which obviously it would, being stabbed by a little thing. But then when you like wear them down, it's very satisfying when you can mount them and start just wailing on them. And then when you get a whole troop doing that, it's cool.
I love kind of putting like a Muppet voice over the first couple of minutes with a monster, where it's just like, ow, 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 stop it, what are you? Go away.
And then they spaz out and start trying to thrash around and get you off.
Excuse me, Mr. Gregory, what are you doing to me?
And you basically have a Muppet walking around with you the whole time anyways with your Palico. It's
true. Just Scooter from the Muppets as a cat.
Oh dear. Yep, that voice is not leaving now. Alright. Well, that being said, Iceborne is rad and definitely reinvigorates everything, because I found even by the end, every once in a while I had the moment of just like, I've seen these environments before, even though they're so big and wonderful. Like, you play in them a lot, so having just that one more environment with the Hoarfrost Reach is enough to reinvigorate things and give you this exciting new space to explore. And I'm pretty certain I'm not amongst a minority of people who enjoy their snowy backdrops. Whether that's just the Canadian me or whatnot, but I love having a snowy environment to run around in.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing I felt that was missing from the core Monster Hunter World experience, so I'm grateful they invested that into this, and the fact that like they've basically made an entire new game with this expansion. I haven't fully explored the entirety of the map because it's huge, and I've only gotten like a few monsters in, but so far the experience is very rewarding, and again has its new tricks and turns of places you can find to trap the monsters, caves to fall down into and explore. There's penguins, so you can't go wrong with that. Which is great, because it looks like they're wearing parkas. By the way, like their fur is designed. It's fantastic.
So because I haven't played Iceborne yet, I can say this much as to why I believe you on their environmentals, because when you're in that first stage, you can almost feel like the jungle heat radiating off of things. Like,
Yeah.
they got really good at environmentals, so, like, I fully believe you when you say it's, like, a chilly, beautiful, frozen, like, snow land.
Well, exactly. Like, everything's just crisp. Like, the woods, like, they nailed it, just like they had with each other environment. Like, the Wildspire Waste, you just feel that oppressive, dry heat, the dustiness in the air. You can just feel, like, the heat emanating when, especially, well, both literally on your character's effect and figuratively when you're going into the Elder's Reach and you're in that volcano, and just the mystique of, like, all the crystal everywhere. Like, yeah, the team at Capcom has done a wonderful job of capturing these environments, which are almost more the star of the show than the monsters themselves, which is interesting considering the game is about monsters. But they're just as much a part of it, which is why Worlds is in the title. Like, it's important that this world be a great, big, awesome world that you can be a part of and feel like is living and teeming and can be interacted with at every point. So, I love that they have continued that, and now you got the, waist-high, deep snow for your Palico and you to try and trudge through, and they've thrown in a few new consumables that you can find in the environment. You got hot peppers now, so you can make some hot pepper drink you gotta chug, otherwise the coldness will reduce your stamina.
Oof.
Yeah, so you got to keep on top of that. But with that comes also hot springs. So you can find a few hot springs sprinkled around that if you just linger in them with the endemic life.
Is this just Death Stranding? Are you actually just playing Death Stranding?
Are you trying to reconnect America, Greg?
No, I'm just trying to reconnect the frozen, frigid island that we're on with the rest of the new world. No, I don't know. I haven't played enough I haven't seen enough of Death Stranding.
Don't put babies in hot springs, Greg. It's not good for them.
Greg, do you have a baby strapped to your chest right now?
I do not, but I can strap a, what are they called? Pro-macaws. Macaques? They're like little, because in all the other ones they have endemic life that runs around to make the place feel alive, and you can capture them and put them as pets in your room. And they have these new little guys that hang out in the hot springs. They're like little marsupial mammals or some sort, but one of them you can unlock as equipment by getting the right amount of tickets. You can get one of them that just rides your head.
Aw, that's really cute.
It's really great because they had like the Wiggler helmet for like that was like the Wiggler hat, and they had the where you could wear the Kuluyaku head is one of the special ones. So having just the actual little creature just riding on your head is just kind of funny, and they all hang out in the hot springs and just chill. And you can chill out there with them, and then it gives you some health bonuses, and also can give you the same heat reduction bonus that the hot pepper drink does, but not as long, or chill reduction, whatever it is. So yeah, they've definitely made the environment come with its own new things to set it apart from the others. And then the new monsters, so far they all seem to be kind of palette swaps, for lack of a better term. Like they've just kind of built on. So yeah, we saw a lot in the trailer of Beotodas, which is kind of sort of like fishy one that kind of swims through the snow, which is basically a palette swap of Geotodas, Geotodas, which was in the Wildspire Waste. And then they also have Banbaro, which is that rad-looking one that has the big antlers. And it's kind of built on the framework, I think, of Anjanath, because it kind of moves around like that, has the big tail. They just kind of beefed it up a bit, and then, yeah, threw antlers on it and reconstructed the face. That one definitely went through a lot more to make it different, but you can see a lot of the similar movements. But with these new ability, this new environment, again, they all get new abilities, which is great to see them not just do a palette swap, like they actually give them new movesets and new ways to interact with the environment, which was rad. Because, like, the Beotodas can dive in and out of the snow as it does, and it definitely spends most of its time in the snow, which is contrary to what usually happened with Gyarados if you got it to other parts of the environment. Well, I guess not. No, it was in the water a lot too, but it didn't do a lot of, like, the leaping around attacks. And this one can get you covered in ice and stuff now, which will slow you down a bunch and sap your energy, so you gotta watch out for that. But there's neat ways to kind of get it out. It's, again, with all these ones, it's kind of the pattern recognition, figuring out what they're weak against to kind of expose them and make them more vulnerable so you can break stuff off and capture them and such. And with Banbaro, it kind of builds these big old snowballs, with its antlers by shoving through the ground, and then will like huck them at you, which is really neat and terrifying.
Oh, it just really wants to play, have a snowball fight with you.
Yeah. Do you want to build a snowman? As it steamrolls towards you. So you can definitely see the influences. And aside from that, there's a bunch of other of the core monsters that have come back now as well. So what I love is not only have they, as you now get into a master rank, you've gone from hunter ranks into master ranks, so you can take on master rank monsters and such. So they've given new life to like the core ones like Paolomo and Puke and Anjanath and such, which thus unlocks new armor with them, which is great too, because as you may recall, Mark, you would get just the basic low rank and then you get the high rank, and it more or less looked the same, just like slightly different color.
Yeah.
Now they've actually made a complete new redesign, like the new Puke armor is rad. You look like an Inquisitor from like with your little like Robin Hood kind of cap and from like Cthulhu era or something. I don't know. It's really cool. And so you have not only just a bunch of new armor that you can get just from the basic monsters, they've also introduced a spin on them. So like one of the first ones you encounter is the Viper Tobikadachi. So it's a lot like Tobikadachi, except now instead of being electric, it's poisonous and can stun you with paralysis, and it looks different as far as its color palette and everything like that, but it just kind of changes up what you're used to with these monsters. So they move in a lot of similar ways, but now you have to kind of rethink your strategy with interacting with them. It's not about just like combating the whole thunder thing. It's like, oh, now they can poison me and they can paralyze me. That's just fantastic, and they're super fast and great. And they've done that with a few other ones. Like now they have a Puke that now instead of puking up venom and stuff at you, it actually shoots water at you. And what's cool about that one is it wasn't simply a case of just, again, doing the palette swap and using the same moveset. Like they seem to have introduced, at least with that one especially, is very elaborate, some different moves with what it does with the water attacks that it does. And I think it's great. Again, it shows that they've put a lot of care into building this new world for us to explore, and like they've done a lot of good faith with this game with giving us so many free updates and releases throughout the entire lineage of Monster Hunter World for the past couple years now. It's been out 3 years, 2 years, where are we at?
I think 3 years.
3 years, yeah. And there's been constant free events, constant free things just to upgrade your hunter with. So, you know, paying for this DLC, it's worth it because you get so much more from it. It's kind of giving back to this company that has really given a lot, and it's like for the amount of care that is being put into this expansion, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun to explore, and I'm looking forward to getting into more of it. But as always, it is a grind. And the new hub that you get to go to, it's called Celiana, is really neat to explore too, but it definitely takes a learning curve because I find once you've spent so much time in Astera, you know your way around. So I keep wanting to be like, oh wait, where do I go for the forge again? Where do I go to go find food again? Like it's taken me a few returns to the hub to figure out how to get around, but I'm starting to get the sense of it. So there's hope for us yet. But it's a nice little space. It's also introduces a new bedroom for you that you can actually customize. So you can put decor and stuff in it as you unlock through the game. And there's a few little quests and stuff too. It's like, I think you need a picture of the Wildspire Wastes. Go get this stuff and bring it back. And there you go. Now you have a picture you can hang on the wall of the Wildspire Waste, for example. So it adds a fun little mini game aspect on top of the already existing features of sending out the Tail Raider Safari and being able to put pets in your room and stuff like that. So it just makes that space much more personable now that you can decorate it, which is neat too. For people like me who like decorating things in games, it scratches that niche for me, that itch for me.
But the real question is, can you mount a head on your camp wall yet?
I don't know, and I really hope you can, because that would be as gruesome as it is at the same time great. I don't know if, again, and I say gruesome just because some people might find that off-putting, so it's maybe something that Capcom decided, you know what, maybe not. So I could see why, but I'm hoping they went with, let's just do it, and people can use it if they want or not, and I think it'd be hilarious to just have, yeah, exactly, like a Kulu Yaku just mounted on my head. I mean, they already had it, you can wear it, so I mean, whatever.
You're actually already doing the more gruesome thing of literally wearing their skin.
Well, especially with, your armor and everything too, right? So, at any rate, I'm very excited to explore more of it, and I definitely recommend it to yourself if you liked your Monster Hunter world. This is more of that, but just even better with having some more stuff to include. And they've done some minor quality of life improvements that they kind of throw some new tutorial stuff in with. It's hard, it's been so much in my brain. But I don't know, how recently have you played Monster Hunter World, Mark?
Probably 6 months ago.
Did they have introduced at that point the catch claw?
Yes.
Whereas, okay, cool. So that's newer. That's not necessarily with this. That was something that was introduced, I guess, just before that. Okay, that's the thing I wasn't sure because I hadn't played it for about probably about a year out before this came out. So there's some smaller updates that I missed.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like a very good update. I might have to actually check that out once I can get into another game. Although, Final Fantasy XIV comes back every couple of months to haunt my dreams.
I mean, it's a good haunting to have, really. Have you ever been interested in monster hunting, Joe?
This entire conversation has just been like, I'm trying to think, what's a language I've never tried to pick up? Like Mandarin. I have no idea what any of this is. I've played 10 minutes of a demo of Monster Hunter Generations on Switch. So this whole thing was like, I have no idea what's going on. These Canadians and their frosty environments just go on and... but I think for Monster Hunter, maybe I could see myself getting into it. I'm usually more of a narrative-based person, but then that gets thrown out the window whenever there's a new Pokemon game, so, do with that what you will. But in terms of the look and the art direction and the kind of community aspect of it, I'm interested in it. And I'm going to be getting a PS4 next month, so I'm going to... Maybe I'll dip my toes into that once I clear up my backlog of PS4 stuff, because I already started buying PS4 games over the summer in anticipation of, I'll get this system sometime soon. So
just pick up stuff while it's on special.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's why I have Nier Automata Game of the Yorha Edition, Street Fighter V, and Bloodborne, but no PS4.
You'll get there.
Yeah, so.
Well, I mean, if narrative is your focus, of course, this one does. It's very thinly veiled narrative, and it does enough to serve the story, but ultimately you're just getting in there to hunt monsters and explore. And if that's appealing for you, if you just want something that you can just grind away at your own pace on the side, then for sure. But at the same time, with Sword and Shield coming out, it kind of seems like the best of both worlds with Pokemon / the Monster Hunter world, what it is with Pokemon endemically living in the environments that you can explore. So how big that is and if it's in the same scale, I don't think it will quite be, but it looks like it's closer to that, and you might just be fine enough just with that.
Yeah, I as I may have mentioned, I've had quite a history with Pokemon, as many people have, and used to do tournaments a little bit and such, and have put thousands of hours into EV training and stuff like that. Far too many hours. Then I question how much time I've put into those games sometimes. But you know what? That's all right. It's okay. And right now, I'm not having an existential crisis about it.
As long as we don't think too much about how much time we put in the games, we won't collapse under the weight of our own time management.
Yes, just like last episode. Pokemon, don't think about it.
Video gaming, don't think about it.
I think Monster Hunter actually shares a bit with Pokemon that might attract you quite a bit. Not because, you're obviously not collecting monsters, you're collecting monster parts, which is sort of, Pokemon plus slaughter, the ideal evolution of a Pokemon. Sometimes, look, I need a new pair of shorts, and Pikachu's right there. There's a million Pikachus. I could start a Pikachu short factory.
Is yellow your color, though?
Not really mine.
It's not mine either, so,
Well, for 99 cents, you can download the DLC that will let you dye your shorts.
Heck yeah.
Pikachu shorts? Isn't that just Meryl?
I like shorts. They're comfy. and I can dye them now for 99 cents.
So fun story. Years and years ago, I did a skit at one of our local conventions, Anime North, and we did a skit about it's sort of riffing on the whole Pokemon thing. Bruno from the movie Bruno shows up at one point and has a fashion show where he's definitely skinned some Pokemon just to like make Ash's eyes bleed. And just he comes out, and because it's Bruno, he's in yellow, and he turns around, and it's just Pikachu's face on the cheeks.
Oh gosh!
And he's like, "Yeah, Pikachu is shorts now." And
that ain't right.
The direction that I gave to the guy who was playing Ash was, "I need you to scream directly into this man's ass." And he just gave the most blood-curdling Pikachu. And then there was shotgun killings to yakety sacks, and skits go off the way.
I don't feel good. I don't feel all right.
I don't feel so good, Professor Oak. Yeah, but Monster Hunter, though, what I was going to get at is, I don't know if you like Jurassic World or the new Jumanji movies, Joe?
I've not seen Jurassic World, and I know nothing about Jumanji. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to use that as a touchstone to say, like, Monster Hunter is definitely those movies as a game. It succeeds at what those movies are trying to do. Similarly, like, I don't know, Land of the Lost or Journey to the Center of the Earth,
Mm-hmm.
The weird, we're going to encounter dinosaurs and aliens in strange lands sort of thing. And I think generally just a little more interactive.
So they're trying to recruit The Rock to be in Monster Hunter World as well?
Oh God, I would love The Rock in Monster Hunter World.
I'm just picturing The Rock, like The Rock just ripping off his shirt and just trying to absolutely suplex a Rathalos or something like that. And it's a pretty good picture. I'm liking what I'm imagining.
Yeah, I would 100% be okay with Rock DLC. I'd pay like $15 for that.
Just his character. You have to hunt him first, and then skin him, and then you can have his The Rock wearing his like survival, whatever it is, explorer gear.
The Dwayne Johnson set.
Yeah, exactly. And then the new gesture is the people's eyebrow.
The people's elbow.
Yes.
Whatever it is he does, yeah, his eyebrow thing. Anyways, as we digress into silly things, it's clearly a point to move on to other games that are sucking up time, which, Joe, you have gotten into the latest Switch version of Dragon Quest XI.
I have. I'm probably a little under 10 hours into it.
And it's been out for just about a week now.
Yes, I got it the day it came out. It took a while to find it because my games shop that I usually frequent, I called them and they said they didn't have it, but they did. So I had to trek across Chicago. It was a downpour. It was not fun, but the game itself is very fun. So this is the definitive edition, quote unquote, of Dragon Quest XI, which came out for PS4 in 2017, or it might have been 2018 in the States. And it's lovely. It's wonderful. They've made a couple of enhancements to the game. The biggest things that have been frequently highlighted are the orchestral soundtrack as opposed to the MIDI soundtrack that was included in the original version.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. Have you heard why exactly they had the MIDI version in the original?
I don't remember exactly why. Last I remember hearing was that Koichi Sugiyama is difficult.
Yes. So he is difficult also. This comes up like every time he's brought up, but I think it deserves highlighting that he is someone who denies war crimes from World War II, but he's also 88, so I mean he was a teenager during World War II. Really hard-boiled Japanese nationalist. So he wants people to buy the music and such, and he didn't necessarily want it in the game. But I guess they did enough poking and prodding to get them to include the full orchestral, and it is wonderful. It is so fully fleshed out. If you're using headphones with the Switch, it has 3D sound. So, I mean, it's lovely. The only things with it is that sometimes the music isn't varied enough. So if you're traversing across the kind of overworld and across the land of Erdrea, the same kind of, you're riding your horse, it's upbeat music will be playing, even though you just saw your entire, something bad happen. I just almost had a big spoiler there, but
some procedural issues with music tone.
Yeah, some issues with tone, but other than that, in comparison to the PS4 version, in terms of what I've seen, it's, a little blurrier. It's, it doesn't get up to whatever the PS4 Pro version got, which is like 1738p or something like that. It was a weird number.
More than 1080.
Yes, but not quite 4K. It's there's been a lot of kind of criticism that it's traditional, and sure, I guess if you want to call it that, but it's also really well localized, and you just get the feeling of confidence from it. You just know that these are people who've been working on Dragon Quest for a long time. They know how this works. They're feeling nostalgic. There's a lot of kind of callbacks and everything, even from my very limited knowledge of Dragon Quest. But it's a lovely game with beautiful environments, a very easy to pick up battle system. If you played a JRPG, you're going to know what to do here. Yeah. The story is so far very engaging. Your hero is deemed the Luminary, and you essentially have to figure out what exactly it means to be the sort of chosen hero. And from
Jesus.
Yeah. An RP Jesus, as is kind of traditional, but it's definitely already taken some turns, and I'm not even 10 hours in. So I am very excited to continue with it. So that's Dragon Quest XI. I'm definitely going to keep playing this. I've got off work for a few days because I'm kind of going on a vacation to Minnesota because my sister's getting married in a couple of days.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And so for the next few days, and my birthday is within that time frame as well. So I'm either going to be celebrating a birthday, a wedding, or just playing Dragon Quest. So
double congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm just, it's going to be a fun few days.
So you get to be RP Jesus, you get to go to a wedding, and you get to level up. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. I imagine a few years down the line, the leveling up won't be as fun. But for now,
but there's no stopping it.
There's no stopping it, and every day we wake up screaming.
Sometimes I start screaming before the waking up. I mean, I'm 36,
wow.
Which I think I'm older than you. You gonna bet on?
Yes.
You're scant the oldest person here.
Scantly the oldest person. Oh dear.
Well, because I'll be 36 in April.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't know if you want me to point out my youth or.
I mean, that's up to you. I turned 36 in April, so
I'm going to be 24. So.
You essentially just
that's right.
Screaming early.
I forgot that we are almost birthday buddies.
Yeah,
huh?
So
that's Dragon Quest XI. But
yeah, have you been toying around at all with the 2D aspect of it, or just sticking right now to a 3D playthrough?
I did a little bit. The 2D is really cool, but for me, I don't really have that nostalgia for NES or SNES style graphics. So, I mean, I can appreciate them and like them and everything, but I think a lot of it comes from like a Dragon Quest nostalgia factor. Like, it's definitely, it's smaller than the main game. It obviously doesn't have that same sense of, that same breadth and everything. But it's a really cool feature that they have, and I'm glad it's in there, even if I'm not going to be using it much.
Well, that's pretty neat. Well, between this and Monster Hunter, though, I guess you have a huge education moment set aside to book time with Professor Solosi.
Oh yes, I am gonna learn. But before, that's been the more fun game that I've been playing and such. But I've also been playing and finishing up Final Fantasy VIII. So,
and you think that's more fun than Final Fantasy VIII?
Yes, very much so.
Last time we spoke, you hadn't gotten too far into 8 yet, but you were enjoying it thus far. So what has changed?
Yeah, it's I'm on the final dungeon. I'm at Ultimisia's castle. Final Fantasy VIII. There's a game.
That there's a game.
They do not take time to flesh out those characters much at all. The junction system is still a wild mess that I grudgingly respect. But I'm very interested in this game because it's like the ambiance of it tells a far better story than the actual game does, because the art direction and the environmental design is just amazing. I mean, when you look at Bellum Garden or the kind of futuristic city that they go to in Esther, that is just I'm absolutely in love with that. Even if on Switch it's rather blurry, the backgrounds.
Yeah, I've been thinking of grabbing it as well, but I'm like, I will probably grab for Steam so I can use the upgrade.
Yeah, it's probably you should I would probably recommend just grabbing it on Steam. So
because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to warn you up front. FF8 is one of my favorite games of all time, Joe.
Oh.
So well, be careful what you say, or we might have to fight.
All right, let me just crack my knuckles and. But and another thing is that in terms of the ambiance's kind of story that it's telling, this is probably, in my opinion, Nobuo Uematsu's best work overall. Just if you're to take it game by game, it's so varied. You have tracks like Liberi Fatale, which is just incredible on every level. You have a pop gem like Eyes on Me, which, as cheesy as it is, I absolutely love. I sing.
It's incredibly singable.
Yes, I practice as y'all might know, I'm a singer. I practice singing that song like weekly. It figures into my singing playlists and such all the time. And then my favorite track in the game is Fisherman's Horizon, which that's gorgeous. A really
nice piece.
It's gorgeous. So I'm kind of disappointed in the characters, because the only characters I like in the game really are Idea, Squall, and Renoa. And so I'm left a little cold by it, and I'll probably finish that up today, because I'm probably halfway through Ultimisia's Castle. I'm glad I'm playing it, and I'm glad I'm finishing it up. It's a fascinating game, and I really appreciate just how out there they went with a lot of stuff. But I just wish they would take a little bit more time with the characters.
See, to offer a counterpoint, I think for me, FF8 actually, for its time at least, had one of the better fleshed out casts, and I think part of that is that it got a good translation, because you lose so much in FF7 of who the characters are, and a lot of it is just inferred. Whereas in 8, I think we actually got like good dialogue and things like that. I'm actually surprised that you like Renoa over somebody like, I don't know, Zell or Selphie. Because in my estimation, Renoa was extremely boring, I found, as a protagonist. But I do agree with you that Idea is very interesting. Squall is very interesting. In fact, I think Squall is far more interesting than people give him credit for, because I think he's been written off as a kind of archetype, kind of boring, give a kind of emo guy. And he's not really, though. He's a teenager, but teenagers act like that. That's a thing.
Yeah, and he he grows pretty. I mean, I may think it's a bit rushed with how he grows, but he grows throughout that entire story. I mean, you can't really picture the Squall that you first meet in the game having such outward showings of distress and worry when he's not sure if he'll be able to save Renoa and everything. He does a lot of growing throughout it, and for Renoa, I think she's an interesting character, in that she's kind of this wannabe revolutionary in some ways, and it's almost like she's kind of being financed and propped up into this role by her dad, and I wish they would kind of flesh it out more, how a lot of this is kind of her breaking away from kind of her dad's shadow and making her own beliefs and her own kind of moves throughout the world.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that angle. I think in general, like, what speaks to me about everyone's story in Final Fantasy VIII is it's a development of empathy. Like, especially Squall, but like everyone is developing empathy, everyone is growing up, and they're all kind of having to learn how do you function as a real adult human? How do you present yourself maturely while the world is literally, like, time and space are falling apart around you? You know, no pressure.
Real adult problems, it's true.
Time compression. Modern problems call for modern solutions.
Can I take out the trash by just throwing it through a time portal?
You can try.
And make myself 2 weeks ago do it instead.
Making my problems yesterday me's problems.
And I mean, you can try that, but I imagine it would probably just let a sorceress from the future destroy the world. So, I mean, you're an innovator, Greg. We know this. So, be with your ambitions and give it a shot. But don't say we didn't warn you.
Those garbage rains down on Greg.
Exactly. From a future garbage sorceress. Well, there we have our next plot of Final Fantasy XVI.
Oh, dear.
It's 2 times the Final Fantasy VIII. It should just double down on Final Fantasy VIII's plot. So, well, I'm glad your journey is still fun regardless. But as as you were saying, it's quite a game. It's basically what Leona was telling you too last episode as well, of buckle up. Yeah.
I was told to buckle up, and I was still not quite prepared.
I wasn't ready for you, Final Fantasy VIII. There's things in news that have been going on. I mean, Alpha Dream just filed for bankruptcy or closed down or whatever. That was the folks who did the Super Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga stuff, RPGs. That team, unfortunately, is I think going to be no more, from what I can see. Which is very unfortunate. I hope they all find other places to go, because those were great games. It's just too bad that they couldn't kind of crawl back up out of the deficit they were in. But in happier news, the other bigger RPG news that kind of was dropped was more stuff about Pokemon as we get closer to the date with Sword and Shield. They got 18 gyms. That's a lot of territory to explore. Yeah. That means Galar's going to be massive, I'm guessing. And the fact that they're doing Major League and Minor League gyms kind of split between the two versions. I know some are going to be major, some are minor. I wonder what the difference is there.
Greg, what about the National Dex?
What about it, Mark?
Nothing.
It's fine.
National Dexers are just a fascinating Twitter adventure right now.
Mm-hmm. And if any of our listeners are, of course, very strong voices for the National Dex, I get why. And it might just be corporate hand-waving when they're saying, like, oh, well, we're, setting aside putting so many Pokemon in so we can have other features into the game, which may be to our benefit, maybe not. And, like, again, it could just be corporate speak of just something to shut people up. But ultimately, I want to have the faith that Game Freak is trying to make the best game they can and try and shake it up. I mean, they're already putting so much into this so far that they seem to be shaking up what we're used to with Pokemon.
Yeah.
That if that means having a few less Pokemon that no one cares about, except for a very small facet of the population of fans, then I think that's a worthwhile sacrifice. And if there's ways they can reintroduce them in later games, if these things they've tried out aren't working, or, whatever, heaven forbid it comes out as DLC, so be it. There's nothing saying these aren't going to be ever introduced into the game. It just means they aren't going to be there at launch for sure.
Yeah.
And so be it. But I'm not too worried about what Pokemon are in there. I'm definitely more excited to see what they're going to do with this very big expansion on what the franchise has been so far.
Yeah, it looks like an absolutely massive content drop, so I think it'll be well worth it for everyone. And the National Dex thing, as much as I like to kind of make fun of it, I understand where people are coming from. I just think it's not going to matter. I think that Game Freak know what they're doing with Pokemon. They've really never released a bad game. Full confidence in Sword and Shield being just a fantastic adventure, especially, just with how big the world seems like it's going to be.
And that's exactly it. It's just going to be a blast to explore. And as far as other Game Freak projects go, I mean, again, I'm hoping, as I think Joe mentioned this, and Leona was echoing too in the last episode that we three were on together with Nathan, is that hopefully the success or failure of Little Town Hero doesn't take away from or isn't bashed on because of the whole National Dex kind of thing. Because even that recent little video they put out of teasing all the characters and stuff, again, that game looks very charming, so I'm excited to see what comes out of the studio with that as well.
Yeah.
But that aside, there isn't too much else to talk about, so I say we can wrap this show up for the day. Got another one coming in nice and quick, which I'm liking. I'm going to try my best, listeners of the podcast, to try and keep our conversation shorter now. And it always helps when we have people who have all played the same things. and not 4 people who have all played 2 different games each, and we can go on. But to that end...
for life!
Or, just for as long as you need to play it, and then put it aside. You do you. Or the people will write manifestos on it, like Mark Chan. In my thesis, I would like to express how much Squall likes black. No, whatever.
250,000 words on the value of leather jackets.
It gets cold in whatever the name of the world is in that game.
I'm not interested in hearing about the leather jackets. However, if you write 250,000 words about how many belts is the ideal number of belts, you bet I'm going to read that. And I'm going to take that to heart.
You have a good talk with Tommy Wiseau about that.
That's true.
Got the Tommy Wiseau Lulu fandom crossover here.
Oh dear. Please, we're good. Let's not go down that rabbit hole at all. Although, I gotta say, I forgot to insert it now that you've gotten far enough, because I wanted to talk about it. When you first brought up Final Fantasy VIII, you got to meet Moombas. Moombas are one of my favorite little Final Fantasy creatures that I'm sad I've never returned. And I love them.
Yeah, I love those little Roombas.
Gosh dang you. Get off this podcast. All right, you know what? That's it. We're done. I'm kidding. I'm going to shout at everything, and then we'll be done. Dang it, Joe.
You don't need to be mad at me just because you don't like vacuums, Greg. Okay?
Little lion vacuums.
You can imagine that's what they evolved for them for. Just to that's basically what they are. They're just caretakers. They are more or less furry Roombas. Oh dear. What have we... Alright, anyways. That's a whole thing. We gotta get out of here because Joe's gotta go. So, fans, you can reach us through Joe, through the RPG Fan social media. We are at RPGFancom on Twitter, on Instagram is the other one, right? And you can also talk to us on Discord. I'm G. Delmy on the Discord. I'm at Greg Delmage on Twitter if you want to yell at me for being an incoherent host. And otherwise, you can email me at rpgfan... that's the wrong thing. You can email me at podcast@rpgfan.com. That's what it is. I'm good at this, I swear. Check out Retro Encounter. They just played... What game was it, Joe?
We just played Wild Arms 3.
And how was that experience?
It was an experience.
Cool. There you go. Glowing review from Joe about Wild Arms 3.
Time. I had a time, and that time was around 65 hours. And it was more than I thought it would be. 65
hours of Western-themed good times. But yeah, they just did a big play journal of Wild Arms 3 and got some new exciting stuff on the horizon to play. I think some of the polls have been closing recently, so we've got some new games to get into. And aside from that, Rhythm Encounter's still out there. You can go listen to back episodes. Sorry for salting that wound always. And otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for listening to us ramble on about nonsense and video games. As always, for myself, for Joe, for Mark, thank you for listening. Have yourselves a good one. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.